My mother said it so casually, like it was the weather. There's just no room for the kids this year, Maya. Her voice was light, pleasant, as if she were commenting on the grocery list, not excluding my children from another family holiday. I looked at the picture she'd just texted the family group chat. My brother's twins, beaming in front of the lake house mantel. Even their cocker spaniel was curled up on a plaid bed with its name stitched on the side. My kids? Not a whisper. That was the moment something inside me just shut off. I didn't protest. I didn't get upset. I just said, I understand. Ended the call, and booked the one thing I knew they'd never see coming, a penthouse apartment in Chicago with more room than all their excuses combined. And when they found out, suddenly, their tune changed completely. Maya, we should all come to you this year. Oh, I bet you should. Before I tell you how that went, let me know where you're watching from, because this time, I stopped making space for their lies. My name is Maya Evans. I'm 35, a mom to two amazing kids, and I grew up in the shadow of a family that always seemed to look right through me. My older brother, Chris, was the star. He was the one born with a magnetic charm that made our parents' friends coo and teachers automatically like him. My younger sister, Chloe, was the baby, the sweet, sensitive one everyone felt protective of. And me? I was the dependable one in the middle. The one who kept her room clean and her grades up, who never made waves, but never really earned a standing ovation either. We lived in a picture-perfect Ohio neighborhood where the grass was always manicured and the smiles were just a little too tight. My dad was a financial advisor, my mom a part-time real estate agent. They valued order, achievement, and most of all, what the neighbors thought. At the dinner table, the conversation always orbited Chris's latest soccer victory or Chloe's delicate feelings. I learned to chew quietly and keep my thoughts to myself. I went to college in Chicago and fell in love with the city's loud, honest energy. I chose marketing because it felt creative and structured at the same time. I built my career through pure grit, late nights, client pitches, and a relentless drive that eventually landed me as a senior brand director. Along the way, I met David. He was witty, driven, and for a long time, we were a perfect power couple match. We got married, bought a condo, had Sophie and Ben. I truly believed I'd created the family where I would finally be seen. But life has a way of unraveling plans. David's ambition took him to the West Coast. My roots and my career held me in the Midwest. We grew apart in a quiet, heartbreaking series of signed documents and divided assets. The divorce was civil, but it was cold. I kept the kids, the condo, and the crushing weight of making everything feel normal. I became the mom who helped with homework on video calls and never missed a school play, even if it meant working until 2 a.m. The first Thanksgiving after the split, I thought my parents would insist we come. Instead, my mom called, her voice syrupy with fake regret. Honey, it's just so crowded with Chris's twins and the dog. Maybe it's better if it's just you this year? The word just hung in the air, sharp and final. I remember putting the phone down and watching Sophie and Ben build a pillow fort in the living room, their laughter echoing in a space that suddenly felt too small. I realized then that I hadn't just inherited my mother's high cheekbones. I'd inherited her family's unspoken ranking system. And I promised myself, right then and there, that the chain ended with me. The pattern kept repeating. A half-hearted invitation, followed by a flood of photos showcasing their perfect, complete family gathering without us. By the third year, I could recite my mother's lines before she said them. Sweetheart, you know how your father gets with all the noise, maybe next year. Next year was a myth. On social media, I'd see the evidence. My parents beaming, Chris's kids in matching outfits, the dog with its own place setting. And my children would ask, with those innocent, confused eyes, why doesn't Grandpa want us to come? I never had an answer. So I'd make a big deal out of our own little feast, put on a movie marathon, and pretend we were having too much fun to notice. But one night, after Ben asked, does Grandma love the dog more than us? I locked myself in the bathroom and cried so hard I couldn't breathe. I still played the part of the agreeable daughter. I sent birthday presents, shared photos of the kids, even offered to host a summer barbecue. Nothing changed. Then came the Labor Day phone call. Maya, my mother began, about the lake house, we've got a real space issue. The guest room has a mold problem and the sunroom is just sweltering. It was so smooth, so practiced, I felt a hysterical laugh bubble in my throat. But I swallowed it. I just said, "No problem, Mom. We'll do our own thing." An hour later, a text came from Chloe. "You should see this. They just renovated the guest room. New furniture, a huge TV, the twins' game console is already set up. No mold in sight." She sent a picture. Chris's kids were having a pillow fight in the very room my mother had declared uninhabitable. And on the wall, in crisp, farmhouse-style lettering, was a sign that read, "Our family, our home." That image didn't just sting. It seared itself into me. It was never about space. It was about value. It was about who they valued. The next morning, I overheard Sophie on a video call with her cousin, Olivia. Olivia's voice, laced with a practiced superiority, carried from the tablet. "Grandma says your apartment is too tiny for real holidays. She likes our house better because it's big." I froze in the hallway. Sophie ended the call quietly and looked at me, her small face full of a confusion no child should ever feel. "Mom, is our home not good enough?" I knelt and took her hands. "Our home is perfect for us, sweetie. Some people get confused and think bigger houses mean bigger hearts. They're wrong." That night, I stared at the ceiling, and a simple, solid truth settled over me. I was finished accepting crumbs. They had decided my children didn't fit in their picture of family. Fine. I would build a new picture, one they couldn't ignore. There's a certain power that awakens when you decide to stop asking for a seat at the table and just build your own. That power led me to my laptop, searching for Chicago penthouses for sale. I wasn't looking for opulence. I was looking for a statement. The following weeks were a whirlwind of secret planning. Between client meetings and school runs, I toured properties online with my financial advisor, Rachel Kim. "You're in a fantastic position, Maya," she'd said, scrolling through listings. "You can afford to make a powerful move." And I did. A sprawling 4-bedroom penthouse in the heart of the city, with floor-to-ceiling windows, a private rooftop, and a kitchen designed for gathering. I could already picture Sophie's art projects on the large island, Ben racing his remote-controlled cars down the long hallways. It was space, real, tangible, belonging space. I didn't tell my family. The only person I confided in was my best friend, Sarah. When I showed her the listing photos, she let out a low whistle. "This isn't just a new address, Maya. This is a new chapter." By early fall, the kids and I were unpacking boxes in our new home. We filled it slowly, with things that felt like us. Lush green plants, colorful rugs, bookshelves overflowing with stories. Sophie painted a skyline silhouette on her wall. Ben insisted on a bunk bed that felt like a spaceship. One evening, standing with them on the rooftop as the city lights began to twinkle, I felt a profound sense of calm. They will never, ever be able to say there isn't room for you again. And then my phone rang. My mother's number. "Maya, about Thanksgiving," she started, her voice dripping with false warmth. "We're hosting again, but with Chris's crew and the dog. It's just so." "That's all right," I interrupted, my voice steady. "We won't be coming this year. The kids and I are hosting at our new place in the city." A silence. Then a hesitant, "New place?" "Yes. A penthouse near Millennium Park." The silence that followed was so deep I could hear the gears turning in her head, recalculating my worth. "Oh, Maya, how wonderful. Well, then, perhaps we should all just come to you this year. You certainly have the space now." There it was. The pivot. Years of no room evaporated the second I had something they wanted. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Let me think about it," I said. But in my heart, the answer was already a resounding no. They had mistaken my quiet nature for weakness. They were about to learn the difference. The next few days were a masterclass in hypocrisy. The texts started rolling in, their tone entirely new, ingratiating, eager, fake. First from Chris. Mom says you got a penthouse. Which building? We'd love to see it. I was vague. We're still settling in. Keeping things low-key. Perfect, he texted back. The twins have never seen the Christmas markets downtown. We'll just stay with you. It'll be a blast. Then my dad, your mother, and I think it's a splendid idea to have the whole family together at your new home. We'll handle the wine. Even distant aunts and uncles, people I hadn't spoken to in a decade, suddenly found my number. We'd love to see your new home, Maya. The very people who couldn't squeeze in my children now had all the space in the world for themselves. Sarah just shook her head when I told her. They don't want to be with you, Maya. They want to be in the penthouse. She was right. When my father called again, he used his "I'm the patriarch" voice, the one that used to make me shrink. Maya, it would mean the world to your mother if we could all be together. Family is everything, especially now that you've come into your own. I let the pause stretch, heavy and deliberate. You mean, now that I finally have something you consider a success? Don't be difficult, he snapped. We love all our children the same. The same? I repeated, the word tasting like ash. Is that what you told Sophie and Ben when they were given the pull-out couch while Chris's dog had a memory foam orthopedic bed? He started to bluster, making excuses, but the old feeling of dread was gone. I just felt clear. Dad, I said, my voice firm. Anyone who didn't have room for my children before doesn't get to enjoy the room I've made for them now. I ended the call before he could reply. Thanksgiving morning dawned bright and clear over the Chicago skyline. The rooftop terrace was set with warm lighting and autumnal centerpieces. Sarah and her husband were there, along with a few close friends from my son's soccer team and their families. The air was filled with the smell of roasting turkey and real, easy laughter. Chloe showed up last, carrying a dessert and a look of quiet apology. I should have spoken up years ago, she murmured. You shouldn't have had to fight this battle alone. Then don't let it happen again, I told her and hugged her tight. By mid-afternoon, the penthouse was buzzing with the kind of joyful chaos I'd always dreamed of. Kids were chasing each other. Music was playing, and the table was set with place cards Sophie had painted herself. Ben was proudly demonstrating the light-up stars on a ceiling to anyone who would listen. At around 4 o'clock, the elevator dinged. My parents stepped out, holding a store-bought pie and strained smiles. Maya, my mother breathed, her eyes wide as she took in the view. This is incredible. Thank you, I said, my tone even. Dinner's just finished, but you're welcome to have some dessert. They exchanged a panicked look, realizing this wasn't the grand, welcoming party they'd envisioned. Just then, Sophie and Ben came running out from the kitchen. The room went quiet. My father cleared his throat, awkwardly lowering himself to one knee. Sophie, Ben, we haven't been the grandparents you should have had. We made poor choices, and we are so very sorry. My mother knelt beside him, tears welling in her eyes. Can you ever forgive us? We want to be better if you'll let us. I didn't say a word. This was their moment, not mine. Sophie looked at me, then back at them. Will you come to my dance recital next month? She asked softly. Absolutely, my father said, his voice thick. Ben, ever practical, crossed his arms. And can we have a real bed at your house? Not the couch. My mother nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. You'll have your own room, I promise. With the best beds we can find. They hugged, a tentative, careful embrace, as if holding something precious they'd almost broken. But not everyone had received the memo. My phone lit up with a text from Chris. Chris, seriously, Maya? You didn't invite us? Mom says the place is insane. The kids are devastated. Chris, even the dog misses you guys, lol. Chris, you're being so dramatic. It's a holiday. Stop making it all about you. I typed my reply slowly, deliberately. Actually, Chris, for once it is about my kids. And if you ever want a relationship with them, you can start by apologizing to them. Not to me. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, and then reappeared, a digital tantrum of indecision. She never replied. Chloe, who had been watching me, came over. He'll never get it, you know, she said. I know, I replied, feeling a weight lift. But that's his loss, not my burden to carry. Outside, the city was settling into a deep blue evening, the lights of the skyline glittering like a field of stars. Sophie leaned against the railing next to me. "Mom," she said, "this feels like a real home." "It does, sweetie," I agreed, putting my arm around her. "Because everyone here actually wants to be here." My father came to stand beside us, seeming quieter, more thoughtful. "You've built a beautiful life for yourself, Maya," he said. I nodded, looking out at the city I loved. "I built what we needed." He followed my gaze. "Your mother and we thought we were doing the right thing, keeping things simple." "I know you thought that," I said softly. "But good intentions don't keep little kids from feeling left out." Behind us, the laughter started up again, warm and unforced, spilling out from the open doors. I took one last look at the dining table, where my children's hand-painted place cards sat proudly, Sophie and Ben. There was, and would always be, room for us. Over the next few months, a new, fragile rhythm began. My parents started calling just to talk to the kids. They came to Sophie's recital, and my father, standing before her mural afterwards, said, "She has your determination." It was a small thing, but it was real. They showed up for school events and weekend visits, their efforts clumsy but consistent. The hard shell of my resentment began to soften, chip by chip. I didn't force it, I just let them prove themselves, one honest gesture at a time. Chloe became a regular visitor, her presence a quiet anchor. She told me Dad had finally taken down that "our family, our home" sign from the lake house. He said it started to feel like a lie, she told me. It seemed guilt, given enough time, could sometimes transform into wisdom. Chris remained on the outskirts. There were no apologies, no attempts to bridge the gap. And that was okay. Not every story needs a neat bow. Sometimes, peace is simply the quiet that remains when you stop trying to force a connection that was never really there. At work, I thrived. I was promoted to vice president and found myself mentoring young women in the office, seeing my old self in their eager faces. I told them what it took me too long to learn. Don't waste your energy begging for a seat. Build your own table and make it so magnificent they'll regret not being invited. One sunny Saturday, I woke to the sound of giggling and the smell of slightly burned waffles. Sophie and Ben had taken over the kitchen, a mess of batter and berries on the counter. "We're practicing for next Thanksgiving," Sophie announced when I walked in. "We're doing it again, right?" "Here." I smiled, my heart feeling full to bursting. "Always." As we ate our waffles on the terrace, the spring sun warming our faces, I thought about the journey from that cramped condo to this expansive, light-filled home. It wasn't the square footage that made it precious. It was the peace, the laughter, the unshakable knowledge that in this space, we were valued, we were wanted, and we belonged. That evening, I stood on the rooftop alone. The city hummed a low, steady song below. For so long, I had confused silence with strength, thinking that by not rocking the boat, I was keeping the peace. But I learned that peace without respect is just suppression. All those "no room" excuses hadn't been about logistics, they were about priority. And they taught me the most valuable lesson. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They are the gates you control, deciding who deserves to walk into the life you've built. From inside, I heard Sophie call, "Mom, we saved you the seat with the best view." I looked at the table they'd set, with their little hand-drawn place cards, and felt a warmth that needed no external validation. So, if you've ever been the one left out, the one told there wasn't a place for you, remember this. You don't need anyone's permission to take up space. You build your own table. You decide who earns an invitation. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Have you ever had to redefine family on your own terms? I read every one of your messages. Your stories remind me that our quiet battles are never fought alone. Hit that like button if you believe in building your own room, and subscribe for more real stories about finding your voice. Never forget, the most important space you'll ever create is the one you make for your own self-respect.